boats and rail initiative of the modern era, as it were, to take on the Belt and Road initiative of Xi Jinping. So this is the trade that starts in India, goes to Europe. William Dalrymple, what's the role of the Arab world at that time in the early period of the classical era? What's the role of the Arab world in this trade? What's happening there?
So, complicated question. So first of all, during the Roman times, the Arabs were not placed in a sense where we think of them today. So Egypt was not an Arab country in those days, and it was a Roman and a Greek and Egyptian country. There are three different races living in Egypt. So the Arabs at that point control areas such as Yemen and Aden, which controlled the frankincense route. And that was another of the very important imports into the Roman Empire, because it was what incense for temples was made from. And so that's part of it. But the famous period of Arab dominating the sea road comes, in a later period, when you have the Mamluks in charge of Egypt in the 12th, 13th, 14th centuries. And that's another great period of sea trade between India and the Mamluks, because the coast of India has many Muslim principalities on the western coast by that stage, who are trading directly with their co-religionists in Egypt and the Gulf. So this is something which is an essential part of Indian history, simply because the monsoon winds have always allowed sailors to do this. All Indians need to do, unlike any other nation in the world, is put up a sail, and they go in one direction for half the year, and they go in the other direction in the other half. It's a major natural asset of India, that it's always led to it being a great trading and seafaring nation. That's why you've got huge Indian diaspora all over the west, the east coast of Africa. It's why you've got Hindu temples all over Angkor Wat and the coast of Cambodia and Thailand. And this is the subject of my next book. It's called The Golden Road. It's about the diffusion of Indian ideas, using those monsoon winds to take them all over the world, but also to use the overland route to take Buddhism to China. And we always forget that Buddhism, an Indian religion, took over China for a bit of the Middle Ages, and that with Buddhism came ideas about yugas of time, Indian ideas of astronomy, astrology, magic, all sorts of Indian conceptions came, if you like, sort of hostage with the religion. As Buddhism became popular in China, so many other aspects of Indian science and Indian astronomy came with it. Okay. So there's a whole world that we've forgotten about the export of Indian ideas. And it's not in distant Vedic past. It's not some stuff, some people get very overexcited about the Vedic past and start talking about, internet and the Mahabharata and spaceships in the Ramayana and this sort of thing. It's none of that sort of highfalutin thing. This is solid historical stuff that's happening, particularly between the 1st and 2nd century BCE through to about the 11th or 12th century CE. So about 1,000 years, India is exporting its ideas, exporting its science in a very real and tangible way. And you don't need to be a sort of hyper-nationalist to see this in very clear terms, the way that China becomes a Buddhist country, Southeast Asia has huge Buddhist and Hindu monuments, and eventually Indian numbers and Indian science spreads first to the Arab world and finally belatedly in the 12th century to Europe, which is why we use Indian-derived numbers today.
Such a fascinating historical insight this.